one.
Hi everybody, it's Monica. I'm here to talk to you tonight about making a rag quilt. And just, your simple tools, fabric choices, and how basically to put one together. So here we go. Tools, basic tools. You need a basic sewing machine. You don't need anything fancy. It is a simple straight stitch for this bad boy. Some pins, some thread, scissors, rotary cutter, if you have one. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too. A mat and a ruler. So next we're going to talk about your fabric choices. Choices on your fabric are really important depending on who you're making the quilt for. I find that my personal preference, of course, is flannel. I find it to be the coziest and the best to make fabric quilts or a rag quilt out of. Lots of choices. Like I said, my favorite. Not exactly everyone else's. Easy choice though would be polar fleece. It is probably the simplest and fastest way to make a rag quilt. And you have a fair amount of choice in that too as well. Another good choice is denim. Will withstand any little boy you have in your life. It's a great choice. And of course, lastly, for a rag quilt is the good old-fashioned cotton. Lots of choices in that. It'll fray up beautifully when you get it all together and washed. They're all great choices, guys. So whatever you decide to do, you'll be fine. Next, you need to decide who you're making this rag quilt for, because that's going to determine the size. I chose a toddler quilt. My squares are 7" by 7" squares. I chose 2 colors, so I ended up with 30 of each color square wise. So cut out 30 if you're doing 2 colors of each color, and you're going to need 2 sides, A and B. You are then going to cut out some good old-fashioned batting. You want it to be about 1.5 inches, to 2 inches smaller than your square. So once you've got all that cut out, you're going to sandwich this all together, guys. Really simple, nothing tough about this. Put one of your squares down, good side out, put your batting in, put your other square on top. You now have a sandwich square. Very simple. Sew corner to corner. Just put an X in your fabric to hold everything together. Once you have all 60 of your squares like this sewn up, you're going to go to step number 2. And after you've got them sewn up, this is what they're going to look like. All nice and put together, not going to come apart on you. So once you get that done, step number 2 is taking one of each color, putting them together, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch down line seam. This is where your fray is going to be, but don't cut anything yet, guys. Sew so you've got all these sewn together. So you're going to have a pile of these. Next, you're going to take 2 of them, sew them together. Make sure you don't have to. Choices are yours, of course. I like a pattern in mind, so I always sew dark to light together. Gives me a nice pattern. So you start sewing those until you get to the size of rows you want. I chose my rows to be 8 squares long. So I kept sewing until I got my squares 8 squares long. Once I made that, that's 1 row for the quilt size I chose to make. And my quilt, of course, is 7 rows long. So then again, really simple, guys. Take your rows, sew them all together. Once you've done that, you have a quilt. Pretty basic, pretty simple. Take and sew around your edges, about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. Then it's time to sit down and start cutting. That'll give you your fray once you throw it in the wash. They're great, cozy little quilts. Really simple and easy to do. Again, all you need, basic materials, sewing machine, fabric, and a little bit of time and patience. Sit down, enjoy your sewing, guys. It's really easy. Have fun. Take care. Night.